It started as just another summer night in my small Mexican village, where the air was heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant hum of cicadas. I had heard the tale of La Llorona countless times from my abuela. She would always lower her voice and lean in close, her eyes wide with fear. "She's real, muchacho," she'd whisper. "Do not wander near the river after dark. Her cries will lead you to ruin." I always dismissed it as an old wives' tale, something to keep kids from playing too close to the water. But that night changed everything. I was 18 and thought myself invincible, as most teenagers do. My friends and I decided to meet at the riverbank after the village festival. The river was our spot, a place to escape the watchful eyes of parents and share secrets under the moonlight. The path to the river was steep, lined with tall trees that whispered in the breeze. As I walked alone, the lantern in my hand barely pierced the darkness. The festival music faded into silence, replaced by the gurgling of the river ahead. That's when I heard it, a soft, mournful wail carried on the wind. "Ay, mis hijos. Ay, mis hijos." I froze. My abuela's stories rushed back to me. My heart pounded in my chest as I scanned the shadows. The sound grew louder, more desperate, yet there was no one in sight. My instincts screamed for me to run, but curiosity got the better of me. "It's probably just the wind," I muttered to myself, though my voice trembled. I reached the riverbank where my friends were already gathered. Luis, the loudest of our group, laughed at my pale face. "What's wrong, Jose? Did La Llorona scare you?" he teased, his grin wide. "I heard something," I said, trying to sound casual. "It's probably nothing, though." The others chuckled, but I noticed Sophia glancing toward the trees nervously. She had always believed in the old legends. We sat around, telling stories and joking. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. The air grew colder, and the usual night sounds vanished. No cicadas, no rustling leaves, just an eerie silence. Then we heard it again. "Ay, mis hijos." The wail was closer now, echoing through the trees. Sophia clutched my arm. "We need to go," she whispered, her voice trembling. Luis rolled his eyes. "It's probably just some old woman from the village messing with us." But deep down, we all knew better. The stories said that La Llorona appeared to those who didn't respect her warning. We hurried to gather our things, but before we could leave, the temperature plummeted. My breath came out in visible puffs, and the river began to shimmer unnaturally in the moonlight. And then she appeared. A figure emerged from the mist, draped in a tattered white gown. Her hair was long and wild, obscuring most of her face, but her eyes, oh, her eyes, glowed with a ghostly light. She glided toward us, her feet not touching the ground. "Ay, mis hijos," she cried again, her voice piercing and filled with anguish. We stood frozen, unable to move. Luis, who had been so cocky moments before, fell to his knees, muttering prayers. Sophia sobbed quietly, her grip on my arm tightening. I felt an overwhelming sadness wash over me, as if her grief was seeping into my very soul. "Run!" I finally managed to choke out. We bolted, stumbling over roots and rocks as her cries followed us. The path back to the village seemed endless, and every shadow felt like her presence closing in. When we finally reached the safety of the plaza, we collapsed, gasping for air. The festival was still going strong, the laughter and music a stark contrast to the terror we had just experienced. None of us spoke about what we saw that night, but we didn't need to. The fear in our eyes said it all. From then on, I never doubted my abuela's stories. La Llorona was real, and her pain was a warning to all who dared to ignore her. To this day, I avoid the river after dark. Sometimes, when the wind is just right, I think I hear her cries, distant but unmistakable. And every time, I say a silent prayer for her lost children and for the foolish souls who might cross her path. So, if you ever find yourself near a river on a quiet night and hear the mournful wail of La Llorona, remember my story. Don't look back. Don't linger. Just run.